Hi, this is Darwin Shaw, and I played Fisher in Casino Royale, and you're listening to Really 007.
How did he die? Your contact? Not well.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Really 007 podcast. I'm Tom Pickup, and we're here for another interview, but this time it's a special one because it's to celebrate, can you believe this, the 20th anniversary of Daniel Craig's first Bond film, Casino Royale. Can't believe it, really. And we're speaking to a very special guy indeed, who I think was the first person that James Bond encountered, the first person we see Bond encounter. It's Fisher, played by Darwin Shaw. So thank you for joining us, Mr. Fisher.
Thank you so much. How are you?
Yeah. Very good. Yeah, very
Good,
good. Thanks.
good.
Now, yeah, this is my brother Math, and we're absolutely delighted to chat with you today. And it's crazy, isn't it, to think that it was 20 years ago.
I can't quite believe it, to be honest. When I saw that, I was like, wow, I really am getting old.
Yeah,
Oh,
because you put something on your Instagram, didn't you? And you did this amazing reel of put the
Yes.
background into it.
Yeah, well, I just figured for the anniversary, I should put something up there. And yeah, I put the reel on, and a quarter of a million people saw it. So it's kind of fun.
wow.
Including us, because yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely fantastic. Yeah. So, I mean, if people don't know, when you first started, you of course had a completely different career. So, could you just tell us about that and how on earth you got from there into acting?
Yeah, well, basically, I trained at King's College in London
Oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
as
yeah.
a doctor. I always wanted to do that, and it was an incredible experience. And I started working in the hospital there for the first, doing my house jobs, where I worked in the surgical department and the medical department. And then I had a 6 month career break before I started my A&E job, and I decided I was going to, rather than do another specialty for 6 months, I figured I had the whole life of that. I was going to take this opportunity to go and try and do some writing and just sort of hang out for 6 months, since I'd spent, all my childhood gearing up to being a doctor. And I moved to New York for 6 months. And while I was there, a friend had given me a book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, who is a coach in creativity. She was formerly married to Martin Scorsese, I think, and was very involved in encouraging that whole group of filmmakers back in the day. And through doing this course, this sort of self-directed course, I ended up in an acting class, and that changed my life. Just I got the bug, and I was obviously at this crossroads, age-wise, and in my life, and I just realized I had to do this. And I came back to London, did my A&E job, which was amazing, learnt so much, and then I started to work part time in the hospital, and then started to try and get more of an education in England. And there was this incredible resource called the Actors Centre, but you had to be a member of Equity to get in there and get that training. And eventually, through a long course of events, I managed to get my equity card and get my first job as a paramedic in London's Burning. And that opened the door to some proper training in England. And then again, strange fortunes. I was doing a play in Edinburgh, and I got cut from the play because the play was overrunning by 10 minutes, and you only had an hour in the venue, and my character only came in the last 10 minutes, and I was absolutely heartbroken. Then out of nowhere, I got this. Not out of nowhere, but I'd auditioned to LAMDA, the London Academy, and I suddenly, like the day after I arrived in Edinburgh, and then realised I couldn't do this show, I got this call saying, would you like to do the postgraduate course starting in a month's time? And it was kind of kismet, and
Yeah.
I jumped into that, and that sort of started my journey, or continued the
Math.
journey.
You went to New York and did a course, but you didn't You didn't change career, did you?
I didn't ultimately not. No, yeah, I did. I went to New York Film Academy to do a screenwriting course for about 3 months, which I really enjoyed, and it is something I still try to keep up, but it's not my career, alas. So yeah.
What did your parents think of this sort of career change? Because, like you say, you all your life, I suppose, you'd be thinking, "Oh, I'm going to be a doctor," because it's like a profession, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Leeds,
Yeah.
and
Oh, well, we're in
you know,
Manchester. It's not too far.
oh, great.
Yeah.
I love Manchester.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it wasn't like there was many sort of people we knew who had a path into the media. It was not really on the cards, particularly at that time. And I was from a middle class family. My mum was a social worker. My dad was a teacher,
Yeah.
and it wasn't like we had any friends, or there wasn't any sort of uncles who were in the business or anything. So it wasn't really a possibility. My mother, all my family are in the caring professions, so they weren't best chuffed. I think easy you'd say up north. They weren't best chuffed with my change. But I think they realized after a while how much satisfaction and joy I was getting from doing it. And, eventually I played a leading role in a show called the Bible series, where I played
Yes.
St. Peter. And
Yeah.
I'm also doing another biblical show right now, hence why I've got this
Oh, right. Okay.
this
Right.
huge beard. But I managed to get my mum and her friend to come to set, and they spent a week in Morocco, and I think
Oh,
she then really understood how thrilling it was, and what an incredible experiences you have, and what joy I was having in doing it. And I think that kind of finally changed her mind, so she stopped crying herself to sleep at night, which she did for the first 6 months apparently. I think for me and for Diogo, one of the crucial things for us was the first scene when Peter and Jesus meet on the boat.
You can't just climb into my boat.
Yeah, you're right. Give me a helping hand.
it takes some people a lot longer than that, but you did really well, didn't you? You did some theatre first, is that right?
Well, bits of everything really. I came out of drama school, and fortunately I'd had an agent before I went to drama school. But I was really knew I needed to work on my voice and my physicality. Well, I didn't know about my physicality. I knew my voice needed work. But actually, one of the big things I got from Lambda was, learning how to move, how to kind of get out of your habitual physicality. But also, we had a great guy called Rodney Cottier, who was a former Olympic fencer as well as being an actor. And he really took to our year, and we did a lot of stage combat there. And he basically said we could all stay on for the summer as a sort of bonus, and just kind of do further exams in stage combat. And luckily for me, when a couple of months after that finished, I got the audition for Casino, and I was kind of like really, tuned up for that sort of side of things.
'Cause you were on stage, is it right, with Ray Fiennes early on?
I did a play. I was part of the ensemble, but a
Yeah.
really sort of seminal production of Julius Caesar, and
Yeah.
that was just after Lambda, and we played at the Barbican, and it was an incredible experience as a beginning actor, because there were so many fantastic people in it: Fiona Shaw, John
Oh,
Shrapnel, Simon Russell Beale, as well as Rafe and Anton Lesser, and
oh
so
yeah.
you had
Yeah.
all these real legends of the theatre playing these huge, big, stonking roles, and I just sat in the wings every night and just watched them all doing their work, and it was a really fascinating place, because I was obviously very much an open book and a real sponge for whatever I could take. But you saw different styles of acting. So, Simon Russell Beale would be doing Sudoku like 2 seconds before going on stage. He'd put it down, go on and be brilliant. And then some people were more, involved in their own space, and in a sort of more internal way. And some people were very vocally driven in the way they performed, and some were more physical. And it was just really amazing to realized that there was different ways of performing, particularly on stage. And I'm not sure how much I gained from watching, but
Oh,
I certainly it sort of was a wonderful experience.
Mm.
And to be performing on a big West End venue for, I can't remember how long it was, maybe 10 weeks,
well,
was just a thrill.
I'm going to say this again. Matthew, you've been in Julius Caesar, haven't you?
Yeah,
Really?
I'm afraid, Darwin. Yeah, I was Brutus in a production of
Wow.
Julius Caesar. Just
That's
to
a
let you
great
know,
role.
I was 12 or 13 at the time, and we only did the first three acts. I can't remember how many acts there are, basically it finished just after Mark Antony's big speech for some reason.
Ah.
Anyway,
Too young
but
to do the whole
I
play.
don't think, if I remember, I don't think Ray Fiennes was in that
Was
school
he not?
production, and Anton Lesser and Fiona Shaw. No, but anyway, I'll stop trying to compete with you because yeah.
Although Ian McKellen went to our school actually,
Oh yeah,
Bolton
yeah.
Did
School.
he?
Yeah, I don't know whether you've worked with him, have you?
I haven't. I would love to.
Oh,
Obviously such a legend.
yeah.
That was always my dream, was to be in Lord of the Rings.
Oh,
Oh,
well,
And
there's more and more roles now. There's a new series coming out then.
yeah, exactly.
new
Oh my God.
film.
Yeah, yeah.
I know. I need to get a bit more famous to be able to get in there.
Well, there's so many of these TV series and things, and you've been in loads of them, haven't you? Both in the UK and in America. I mean, there was Homeland, wasn't there? Was one of the big ones.
Homeland was fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I've been very lucky, to be honest, and I think there's a lot of luck in this industry. And you know, it's all about casting at the beginning, and sometimes it works against you, and sometimes it gives you an opportunity. And I got to play a really fantastic role, and I was just looking back at it recently, actually, and I'm amazed at how calm I was because,
Mm.
working with, well, it was Claire Danes, obviously, who's an incredible actress, but also Miranda Otto, who played Arwen in Lord of
Yes.
the Rings.
Yes, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah, yeah.
I was like super excited. She was like totally playing it down, but I was just like, oh my God, I'm on set with Arwen.
Yeah, yeah.
Brilliant.
Don't blame him. Goodness me. Absolutely incredible. Yeah, and I mean to go on to the Bond thing. So we hear loads of actors, don't we, Math, say their story of how on earth they got into this film.
Yeah.
This yours must be pretty interesting because it was a new era, wasn't it? And people really hadn't a clue what on earth to expect until a few pictures they'd seen of Daniel Craig, and of course he got a bit of a bad press before he'd even been seen. So how did that first encounter happen? What happened? Was it a phone call at first?
Well, first of all, it was a call from my agent saying, "Hey, there's an audition for." I'm guessing she must have known it was a Bond movie, but she was like, there's going to be it's going to be sort of like a fight rehearsal
Yeah.
audition at Pinewood, and you got to go and get the tube up there, and there's a shuttle, and but I was, I really didn't know anything. I was so naive, and so, they don't really teach you that at the drama school about the process of movies, and I knew there was a director, I knew there was a cameraman. That was kind of about the limit of my knowledge. So I pitch up at Pinewood, and I find my way down to the 007 stage, which was really cool. You're kind of walking through this building, and you're like, "Whoa, this is amazing." And I go into this room, and I think there's about 20 actors who kind of were all people of color, all because the character was supposed to be sort of Middle Eastern background.
Yes.
So there's all these guys, all shapes and sizes, some martial artists, a couple of people who I remember one of the guys had just worked with not Peter Weir, the stage, one of the stage, and I was like, well, I'm just out of drama school and whatever. And then they started, there's all these sort of, they started just doing some basic sort of punches and sort of just seeing how we started to move. And then then they sort of set up this sort of assault course, and we had to kind of, and they were filming us. There was these kind of guys looming in the background who I had no clue who they were, but that was the stunt team. And they were watching how we interacted, presumably how we got on with people, our attitude. And then we had to kind of do this one course, and I was watching everyone, and I remember, they're running around, ducking behind boxes and whatever. But one of the things that we'd been trained was to vocalize when we're doing stage work, and just to really sell a stunt. And I think I was in a state where I was, because I'd just been doing it, I wasn't self-conscious. So I was kind of throwing myself around and being, very sort of vocal and just really giving a lot into the reactions. And I think obviously, something I did there worked, because a couple of weeks later, I got a call saying you got a callback, a recall as we call them in England, and there's going to be 2 people who've been called back. So I didn't realize how amazing that was. But I was like, oh,
that's brilliant. Yeah.
So I arrive a couple of weeks later, and there's sort of no one there, and I'm sort of wandering around, Pinewood, trying to find my way into this building. I don't know. I was like, is this like some secret test to see whether you've got your skills? And eventually, Gary Powell, who's the stunt coordinator from the famous family of coordinators who did all the Bonds. He did the big barrel, the barrel roll boat stunt that spun around.
Oh yeah.
So he basically was like, okay, there's 2 of you. We're going to see you first, and then with the other chaps coming over. They actually had the fight already kind of planned in their minds, so they started just going through the choreography of this fight. And I think probably it was a couple of hours or an hour and a half of learning the basics. And then they were like, okay, now we're going to go and show it to the director. And I was like, oh, okay. Not realizing quite who Martin Campbell was.
Yeah.
So I come into this room, into this other studio, and then I throw myself around a bit. We do the things, and he's like, good, yeah. I think he needs to work more on his reactions. And they're like, yeah. And then they're like, oh, you're going to meet the producers. And I didn't really know what a producer was, and I certainly wasn't really clued up. So I met Barbara Broccoli and Michael Wilson, and they came up and shook my hand and were very nice. But I didn't, and maybe some of the EPs were there as well, but I didn't quite realize who I was meeting, because I was like, I don't know what a producer does, but I was just like, oh, hi. Anyway, I went away, and then for 2 hours. And then they said, okay, just go and entertain yourself, go and get something to eat for, a couple of hours. We've got this other guy coming in now. And I kind of got the impression that they liked me. I guess I'd been seen first, and it seemed to be going quite well. And I sort of was wandering around Pinewood for 2 hours, not thinking, well, this could, the next 2 hours could change my life. I'd started auditioning, and I was incredibly passionate about acting, but I'd also started to realize how hard it was, and how the odds are stacked against everyone, and how difficult it is. So I remember just walking around Pinewood, just thinking, wow, my life could really change, and it was quite surreal. So I went back there, and they were like, well, we want to just work with you on some of your head movements. So for about half an hour, I was just doing this sort of punch and a flick. So you had to sort of like punch, and then your head's got to flick back really quickly. So we did that for about half an hour and 40 minutes. And then they were like, okay, great, good luck. So off I went. The next day I woke up, I could not move my neck. I was like this for like 5 days. And then I think this was before Christmas, and then I didn't hear anything. And then I think very shortly after Christmas, I just got this call out of the blue saying, "Oh no, actually, no, they actually did call. They decided that day. They decided that day. Actually, I remember. And my agent was like, they've offered you it. This is the deal." And I'd never done it. I'd never had a real paid job like that. And I'm like, "So is there any negotiation?" They were like, "No, this is it. This is an amazing opportunity." I'm like, "Okay, great." And then again, I didn't hear anything until the new year, and then I just got this call saying, "You pick up on Monday at 10 o'clock. You're going to Prague."
Wow! Right. Oh, I just assumed that it was all in Pinewood, or apart from the cricket, which we'll go on to.
No, this was all in Prague.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, I think going to Prague, where we hadn't made a film before, it was new for all of us. And that, I think, energized us, too. There was no familiar. There was just, everything was kind of for the first time.
So at that point, I just got on a plane. This car arrived. I don't think I'd ever been in a fancy cab like that. And it just drove me to the airport, and I arrive in Prague, and they take me down, and they give me this, like, those days, was really cheap sort of burner phones. So I had a mobile phone and 007 cocktail shaker.
This is so good.
and like a few bits and bobs. And then they just dropped me off at this Hilton hotel, and I was like, "What do I do now?" Then the guys spoke Czech. I mean, those days there wasn't much English language in the Czech Republic, and so I kind of go into this hotel. I'm like, "What am I supposed to do?" Because the full production wasn't starting for another couple of weeks.
Right.
So I kind of go into this hotel, and I'm like, "Well, I guess." Oh yeah, they gave me a wad of money. They gave me some per diem, so it was like 50 quid a day.
Oh right.
So I could go and eat and sort of live there. So I was kind of like, "What's going on?" So then I went down in the morning, and I finally saw the casting director who was sitting having breakfast, Debbie McWilliams.
Yes, amazing.
Debbie McWilliams. And I was like, "What do I do?" And she goes, "Oh, I think someone's going to call you on the phone, and you're going to go and do stunt rehearsals."
Yeah.
So I was like, "Great." And then I noticed there was a lot of very butch men sitting having breakfast, and I was like, they must be the stunt team.
Yes.
So I went and introduced myself, and then, a couple of hours later, we went down to this studio called Barrendorf, which was a very famous studio, and it was really a really snowy time of year. So there was like 2 feet of snow, and we went in there, and they had these huge Soviet-style. They were like heaters, but they blew out this massive flame. It was basically just like a gas burner, and I was introduced to Sebastian Foucault.
Oh right, yes, we've met him. Yeah.
He's great.
He's a lovely man. Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Yeah, and we were basically like, people couldn't quite work out whether we were actors or we were stunt people or what our role was, but so we were really just inducted into the stunt guys' lifestyle. So every day we spent probably 8 hours in the studio, just training, learning these fights, until we had them, absolutely in our bodies.
So we've had Daniel for a couple of days now. He's sort of basically straight in at the deep end. He's got 4 big scenes involving action coming straight up. Well, he's obviously done bits before on films, Tomb Raider, Layer Cake, he's done his own sort of bits, but we always, when we get people, we have to sort of go back to basics.
And he looks like he's got the hang of that.
Getting there, yeah. No, he's good, yeah.
Has he been a good pupil so far?
When he listens, yeah. No, he's good. He's quite attentive, actually. He's got a good attention to detail, so he wants it to look right, and he wants to do it right, so.
This is the work you've got to do. I mean, I mean, you got to work hard. That's it. Work hard to get it right, or drill it to get it right. So, I mean, we're going to kick off. It's Friday, and just looking forward to it. I just really want to get it done.
I mean, it was really an incredibly rigorous process in a way which, I did Prince of Persia, which was a similar theme, but majority of time you don't get that sort of level of training. But with Bond, to be trusted to, fight with James Bond, basically, they can't risk a mistake, because if you need to know it so well that you can adapt to any changes which are happening on the day. And of course, Daniel, for me, all I had to do is focus on that one fight. Daniel had to do not only dozen fights, but also all the other stuff. Learning lines in the acting side of things. So I think how they do it is you learn it so well that if the lead actor deviates by half an inch forward in the movement, you're able to compensate for that, and that way avoid injury. So we learnt that.
Maybe not immediately before this, but certainly in Bond past, they probably would have just cast a stunt actor, stunt performer in the role of, a henchman who Bond fights. But obviously, they must have been looking for an actor with combat training or combat experience. So is that what was said to you when you went for the audition and when you were going through all these rehearsals? Because obviously they wanted an actor, and also I assume that all that extra training that you did at Lambda that summer really put you in good stead and put you on, adding those skills to your kind of repertoire, so that when the casting, when they were casting for this and looking for people and asking agents, that was what pushed you to the fore, as it were.
I guess so, yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's many stunt guys who could have done, a better job than me, to be honest. But I think they obviously had a look as well they were going for. So I don't know whether they may have started off looking in the stunt world and then not found someone who looked right, or they were just looking for the right person. It was interesting because as an actor, we're all a little bit like soft-rounded, wet behind the ears, and we have a different way of doing things. So one of the things I remember is, when you're learning something, you can learn it physically, but then you actually need to stop and allow your body and brain to kind of absorb it. And I remember when I was working with the stunt guys, I think Gary came in at some point, and they were all stunt guys. Get up! Like, we've got to do the fight. The gaffer's here. And I was like, what? And it was very much about, you've got to look like we're working. We can't be taking a rest. And I was like, but we've just been working like non-stop for 2 hours. Like, it's okay to, and as an actor, you would always, that's a different way of doing things, whereas for the stunt guys, it was, it's all quite macho and quite a lot, you have to, prove to the boss that you're doing the work in a very visual way. But it's great. They were an incredible bunch, and all's gone on to do amazing stuff. So Glenn Foster, who was my double, went on to become Iron Man's double. And,
okay. I think he was in Quantum of Solace, I think.
Yes, and and after that he
Mitchell, I think he was, Math.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Right, of course.
And Ben Cook, who was Daniel's double, and we did a lot of the training with me, and was saved my life definitely in the shoot. He's gone on to stunt coordinate and do brilliant things. Right. And a wonderful guy as well.
I'm just wondering, so when does Martin Campbell come into this? Did he actually direct the scenes themselves?
Yeah, so I think at a certain point, once I was ready, they'd been working with Daniel, and then I think we had a rehearsal together again in the studio, just to see how that all fit together and see which bits we needed to work on. And then I'd had explosives training, because like when the gun goes off in the bathroom, there's like explosive behind the tiles, and weapons training obviously to hold, with the guns, firearms. So I'd gone off to sort of, they put me in this kind of small room and then just exploded like all these like explosions around, just to get used to having that happening close by, so you don't flinch, and it's kind of, you're not terrified on the day. And then incredible costume team and makeup team. And then we went, I don't know if I saw him again until my first day, which I think was probably day 2 or day 3 of the shoot. And me and Sebastian had become close friends. I was fully in costume, and I went to set all ready to go, and they were shooting. It was on the same stage where they were doing the embassy scene.
Because he was in that, wasn't he, Sebastian?
Yeah. So they were kind of waiting for a space to start to do this fight in between the schedule. So I was there, I think 2 full days where I didn't actually shoot. So I was just on the set watching, because it was amazing, but sort of standing by. And I think it was either on the 2nd or the 3rd day when suddenly they're like, right, we're going. We're doing the bit where I'm running through the corridor into the bathroom. Suddenly, it kind of struck me how huge this was, because there was like 30 people around me. Somebody was like strapping on a holster, and I was like, oh. And they were like, this is the gun, da, da, da. And I was like, okay, great, gun, okay, put this in here. Everyone was there watching, and definitely Barbara and Michael were there. I think Daniel and his girlfriend at the time were also there. Suddenly it was like, it was really my first experience of a big set. I might have done a student film or something, maybe one other project, but nothing, even close to the enormity of this. And suddenly I'm like barreling down this corridor with the DP handheld running behind me and bursting into this room. There was supposed to be a bathroom cleaner in there, and it was actually the casting director's, not Debbie, but the casting associate's father, who was Indian. So he was in there, and I had to burst in there. And
that is in the deleted. I think it's at the end of the deleted scene. You just see you shouting to somebody, and then they.
And he's supposed to get scared and run out. But he was someone's father. He wasn't a trained actor, so he was not really making a genuine reaction first off. So I won't say who, but somebody decided they were going to go and sort of fire the gun to help him experience what it would be like for someone to be scared. So that happened, and he was like, "Oh!" So we eventually got that bit done, and then they're like, "Cut, done. Okay, moving on." And I was like, "Oh." So then I think the next day we went in again, and then we did the whole fight scene in the bathroom, which was, I think maybe it was over one day, or might have just been one day, but it was a super, super exciting and stressful, because it was really the big first. I think there was an explosion and a gunfight they'd done in the other set, but this was the first sort of time when you see Bond for who he is. In this new iteration. That was an incredible day of working with Daniel and with the stunt team and the whole crew. I remember it like it was yesterday.
Oh. But did you know that was going to be one of the first scenes in the film?
I did, because it was like, this is how he gets his 00 status.
Yeah, okay.
And I was aware. Yeah, I mean, I never saw one of the earlier cuts, but I had a friend who had seen it, and originally I think the fight had been sort of split up during the film. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but this is what I remember being told. So it was more, so he would have flashbacks to.
Yeah, that is. I think that's what happens, isn't it? In the finished film.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, but it's all in one. It's all in one chunk at the opening. So I think there was.
Oh right, yeah.
I think,
See,
I
throughout
think
the
it,
film.
I think it was throughout the.
Oh,
Wow,
right. Oh,
right. Amazing.
interesting.
But that I never. I don't think. I don't think I ever saw the full script. Maybe I did. I can't remember. But anyway, it was clear that this was going to be the opening because the gun barrel sequence obviously was going to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just working. There's. It's interesting because like now with more experience, I understand how things go. But there was one moment when we burst out of the toilet cubicle and he's supposed to like bash my head against it, and we practiced with this door that the thing would come and like you'd hit and it would stop and you'd react as if you'd been whacked in the head. I was like, how does this door not hit me? And I was told, oh well, just use your knee to brace it. I'm like, this is like a flimsy little thing, and the corner of the door is literally at my eye level. If my knee goes through this, it's going to take my eye out. And they were like, just stop complaining. It's going to be fine. And then Ben Cook was like, just what you need to do is when in the middle of the fight, you need to like get your knee forward and brace it so we can whack it against your knee. We'll put knee pads on you, and then make sure your head's like in line with your knee. And like in the adrenaline of that moment, that's a lot of stuff to be trying to figure out. And I really don't want to lose my eye, and I don't want to have the scar across my face either. And then so we did a few takes, and then Martin comes over and he's like, Darwin, like you keep like squinting before this thing hits you in the face, like you're anticipating it. I'm like, yeah, well, so would you if you had a door being whacked on you by Bond. And then so Ben goes, look, this is what you're gonna do. Is we're gonna go, and we had to then jump out of we had to do that and then exit by being he'd be throwing me out, but of course we have to cheat that, so I have to sort of have to leap out as if I'm being thrown out.
Yeah.
And I was trying to not get blinded and do all this sort of stuff, and I remember him just saying, calm down, look me in the eyes, we're going to go one, and then we're going to look that way, and then we're going to turn the camera, and I'm going to throw you out. Just follow my eyes. And it was amazing, and like literally I just he was my guru, and I was just like, and he's like, just get that knee up. So I got on the thing smacked against my knee, and then it's like, okay, as soon as that hits, then you turn, and then we go. But yeah, it was fun. We had a rubber basin for when I was drowned.
Oh yes, it looks so painful.
Yeah, and then the thing when I finally knew I'd done well was the breakaway urinals, which I get thrown. People always think it's the wash basin, but it was the urinals, and they'd made them out of plaster of Paris and then put a glaze on them. But they hadn't really. I don't think there's a. I mean, I hadn't checked, and I don't think the stunt team had actually practiced doing it. So we didn't really know if it was going to work, and there was always time pressure. So
yeah,
I remember the sort of people scratching their head, going, "Well, let's just give it a go and see if this is going to work." And I was like, "This is," and they're like, "Do we need to get you a double to do it?" I was like, "No, I'm going to do it. But what it involved is like, Bond being shot from behind and doing a sort of throwing action, and then I had to sort of leap into the air as if I'd been thrown, and then sort of whack my back against the wall and then fall. But then as I was falling, I'd have to bring down my elbow into the urinal and smash it as I go through. And they were like, yeah, I don't think he's going to be able to do this. But they were like, oh yeah, let's give it a go. And amazingly, like first take, it kind of worked.
Yeah.
And then Daniel grabs me and like drags me over, and I'm like, moaning like a loon.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always cringe whenever I see that. But I'm like, maybe
Oh,
you
well, you
should cut
shouldn't. No.
that.
It was. I mean, Math. When we first saw it, obviously we didn't know much.
Yeah,
We knew it was going to be a bit more gritty. I suppose
Yeah.
that's all we knew. But this is like proper, totally different. We hadn't seen anything like this before, and we actually, as a podcast, we did a series on best fights. Throughout the whole franchise, and this one was pretty high up. It really is a famous fight, I think, in the franchise now. And I suppose you
yeah.
guess you don't know that when you film it, do you? You just think, oh, I'm
No,
fighting Bond.
absolutely not. No,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think I knew anything. I was just like trying to trying to
Yeah.
do a good job and not get fired. You know.
Yeah, for many people, this is right up there as their favorite Bond film. And this came at a time, I mean, I don't know whether you're a massive Bond fan at all, but this had come after Die Another Day, which had got quite a lot of criticism for being too fantastical, a bit too silly.
Yeah.
They wanted a darker tone, and Daniel came in and had a new iteration, a sort of grittier, more grounded Bond. And so many people say this scene, this opening, like set the tone, set the template for what it was going to be like. And so it's really important scene. Daniel's kind of first scene as Bond, first fight. The whole setting it up. For a well, as it turns out, like a 15-20 year period as Bond. But this was the starting point. And many people do reference this fight as being absolutely key to that.
I think so. I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I can't take any credit for it, but I think the writing of that scene actually is fantastic. I mean, when you see Dryden, who's played by Malcolm, who became the president of Equity.
Yeah.
Just the simplicity of the conversation and the amount of story you get, and they both play it so well.
Em really doesn't mind you earning a little money on the side, Dryden. She'd just prefer it if it wasn't selling secrets.
And again, huge respect to the director because it's so economical. It starts off in Prague. He's going up. You're like, whoa, this is all black and white. It looks amazing. And then you have this, this sleazy, director who's bent and, and just that moment, when he goes, your file shows no kills and it takes us 2.
Your file shows no kills, and it takes 2.
And you just see in his face, oh.
Yes.
And he goes, and he goes, luckily I know where you're, he tries to shoot him, I know where to get your gun, but and he goes, the second is easier, and he gets shot. But honestly, one of the things which I love so much about that scene is that as Malcolm Dryden goes backwards on the chair, you see a photograph of him and his family.
Yes.
The second is... Yes. Considerably.
For a few frames, just fall over on the desk. And again, it's just like details like that. I mean, that's the amazing thing about being, on a Bond set, with they have time and money to kind of make it so special. And that, and just even, most people probably won't notice that, but like, it's those tiny little details which add to the idea that his killing of Fisher, his first kill, was traumatic for him. Even the second, even though he's killing someone with a family, and it's like they're not. Maybe Fisher is a bit more lacking in backstory, but like you get a sense that these are fully 3-dimensional people, and this is a 3-dimensional Bond, and this is supposed to traumatize him in some way and harden him and become his inner challenge for the whole of his tenure, is fighting for his humanity and being able to be a ruthless killer, and how you change from an orphan or whatever to someone who's able to do that. So I think it was just incredibly. I mean, as you look back on it, you think, wow, they really knew what they were doing.
Yeah,
It's really, really smart.
that's incredible. It is, and you said you presumed because of the deleted scene, which we love. I mean, we're cricket fans, so we were gutted that it wasn't in. But it's in Pakistan, isn't it? So I'm guessing, are you meant to be from that area? Is that what you
Yeah,
think?
I think I'm
Yeah.
supposed to be, a some sort of. I mean, this was 2006, so it was, quite soon after Iraq War and
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
these things. So I
Yeah.
think, there's still, well, I guess terrorism still exists in all sorts of forms today. But I think that was very much the international nature of it, and it was a shame. I think one of the things was that we shot the exteriors in Eton in the
Oh,
cricket pitch
I
there.
was going to ask where it was filmed. Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, I think we had 200 extras that day. But I think they felt that it didn't really sell as Pakistan, because in a cricket pitch there, people would be sitting on the roof.
Oh yeah, yeah. You're right. Yeah.
It was supposed to be. It was supposed to feel. It would have been. It would have been crazy to pack a whole stadium and go to Pakistan to shoot,
Yeah.
Yeah.
or India or whatever. So I think one of the things they felt was it didn't quite sell as it felt a little less scale than it probably needed. But
Maybe it does show it in the deleted scene. I'm just trying to remember it now. But is that how does it work in terms of the Dryden and fitting in flashback, or is it all just was it was it ever supposed to be part of the flashback, or was it supposed to be the first
yeah,
thing that you see?
there, there is a full version of it which has all the Dryden lines in it. He actually has an extra line. Is like he goes, you know, he goes if M. I think he says something to the effect of if M was going to send a somebody with double O status, I'd know about it.
Right.
The theatrics are supposed to scare me. You have the wrong man, Bond. If Em was so sure I was bent, she'd have sent a double O.
And he goes, your file shows no kills.
No kills,
and it's actually two. And then we see a bit of the fight, and then Dryden goes, "You aren't a cricket fan by any chance?"
Oh,
right.
yeah, right.
You aren't a cricket fan by any chance, huh?
And then we cut to so he's obviously heard about this.
Yeah, so that means he's in on it, doesn't it?
Yeah, he's in on
Yeah,
it.
yeah, of course, right.
So that's how it was initially conceived.
Oh, so, so that was filmed when you got back from Prague, I presume.
That was it was a couple of months later. I think that they did then the whole bulk of the film, and then they did that, and yeah, and it's fun, I remember that I was supposed to be looking over my shoulder, and
that was the neck.
Yeah, and yeah, the neck was still stiff.
Yeah,
and I remember I wasn't doing it right for the camera, and I remember Martin coming over and being like, "Darwin, you just need to look over." I'm like, "Yeah, but it feels completely unnatural." I was very much into my young actor kind of now I'm just like, what looks best for camera, right? Yeah. But then I was like, I don't think my character would do that. And he's like, "Oh, well, how would you do it?" And I was like, "Well, I think it would be like this." And he was by then I think he was deep into the process, and he was obviously they were obviously getting amazing footage and stuff.
Yes,
so I think he was pretty calm. So we did that, and then I run through the cricket changing rooms, and I was like, "Do you mind if I don't think if I just pile up all these cricket bags, and I don't, now I know you're not allowed to just go move props, but I was like, well, put this here.
Oh, right.
And then I'll just run in it, and I'll just trip over it."
Yeah.
So I kind of barreled in there and fell over and hurt my knee, but I was like, "Oh yeah, it's fine." And Martin was just so wonderful. And when I was the next year, came to LA for pilot season at the time.
Yeah.
And I gave him a call, and he was like, "Darling, come into the studio. And then I I went in there and met him. He's like, how can I help you? And it's like, it was just like,
that's great, isn't it?
So kind. So kind. He's a real, incredible veteran and master of what he does.
Yeah.
Stand by. Action!
Right, here we go. Water, please. Action!
Martin, the phrase "hit the ground running" springs to mind. Is that that's obviously the way you like to work?
Well, I mean, look around us. You know, we've got this big scene, which is the end of a big action scene right at the beginning of the movie, and I like everybody to get up and really go for it. You know, baptism by fire, really.
We'll see what happens when we do the love scenes. If he's shouting as much as that, I'm not sure it's going to work. But
Even worse during the love scenes, let me tell you. My God.
And of course, he's done GoldenEye to reboot the franchise already, hasn't he? With Pierce. Yeah. So he did know what he was doing. So I think that was obviously a big part of the success of the film.
Yeah, and so much energy. Like he's like right there. He's like, action! Like really alive. I mean, it was a wonderful experience. I mean, so lucky to have had that experience as to start off with, learning this is how things should be done.
Because you've obviously, we'll go back to Casino Royale later, but you've had other big directors, haven't you? I know. Do you have a deleted scene in Prometheus as well with Ridley Scott?
Yeah. That was
slightly different to Mark Campbell, I'm guessing.
Yeah, no, that was wonderful. We shot in Iceland. Apparently, I don't think I'm revealing anything that's not known, but the language which is used by the director is very colourful.
Yeah.
And we had like 8 hours of prosthetics.
Wow.
So we were up at 2 a.m. and on set for 10. We had all this stuff where I had this incredible cloaks which were made by this incredible person in Italy. I think it was like a $2,000 or $3,000 piece of cloth. They made this stuff, and then we had these brooches, which were original Roman brooches they'd found in some antique store, and they were I think they were like 10 grand each.
Whoa!
So then we're there on set, and they're putting this brooch in, and the thing just snaps because this cloth was so thick and beautiful, and they're like, "Oh, we'll try another one." And I'm like, wow. Oh my God, that's 20 grand gone. and eventually they had to make them, make replicas of them to be strong. But there was so much press there. We were shooting on this waterfall called Dettifloss in Iceland. And the whole of the other side of it was like a big ravine with this massive thing. We were on one side, and all the press were there on the other side, and they didn't want to let out because we were this kind of we were playing the engineers who were supposedly the seed of DNA or whatever. Yeah, there's a whole story about that, but they didn't want us to be seen. But we were in the middle of the side of this massive, pretty dangerous waterfall, one of the biggest in the world, or in Iceland certainly. So all they had was this sort of like garden shed. So all 6 of us were sort of sat in the shed for 3 hours, and it was boiling hot, and we were in full prosthetics because we had to hide from these press people. And then they were like, "We're going to go down to the waterfall," but again, they didn't want anyone to see us. So they had these huge. They basically got these They just stitched some sheets together to make these kind of like a hijab, like a whole cloak, and they just put it over us. So we were just these blobs, and then the costume designers had to then walk us for 15 minutes down this precarious, stone path on the edge of this huge waterfall. So the press wouldn't be able to take any photos. And all I could see was my feet. So I'm like, oh my God. But yeah, no, that was great working with Ridley Scott. But again, we were just a small part of a huge project, and he knows exactly what he's doing. We had like a chopper going, flying around, and get that bloody thing down here. It's way too high. What's he doing? And then, we shot really quickly. And then he was like,
Yeah.
well, I think we were supposed to shoot for 3 days and we were done in a couple of hours. And he's like, okay, you guys, go back to Reykjavik and party. So we were like, we'll do that.
Oh, but he's so quick. He's always on time, isn't he? And he's prolific
Yeah.
in terms of how many films he's done. It's ridiculous. What is his mid-80s at least now?
Yeah, I mean, extraordinary energy, extraordinary talent as well. I
Yeah.
mean, it was it was great just to be that close to it. I mean, I'd love to have done more, but who knows? Maybe in
Yeah,
the future.
well, he'll still be around for another 20 years, I'm sure. The
I
rate
hope
he's
so.
going at. Yeah.
I hope he's still making films at 100.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, Martin's he's got loads of energy because I think he's 80, is he? I think he must be.
He must be. Yeah.
Yeah, he's still going, isn't he? Incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. He did a film, I think, a couple of years ago.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Darwin, we must ask you about Daniel Craig, because obviously this was his first Bond film. Had you heard of him at the time? Did you know him as an actor?
I knew sort of actors, particularly Daniel, because he'd done quite a lot of stage stuff. He'd
Yes.
done Layer Cake, which
Yeah.
I'd I'd seen and really enjoyed. Um, so I think our friends in the north. I think it was.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
So he was on my radar, but I didn't I didn't know I didn't know many people, but I think he was always very respected by actors,
Yes.
British actors. So I think he was known. I mean, he wasn't quite as well known as someone like Jude Law, but he was regarded as being a fine actor, and he'd done that big Spielberg.
Yes.
Is it Road to Perdition?
He'd done
yeah,
Road to Perdition, but
Munich.
Munich, yeah.
So and my friend was in Munich, so I sort of was definitely aware of him.
Right.
Incredible responsibility.
Yeah.
I feel to take on at that point. Somehow now I feel the expectations are slightly different. I don't know. But yeah, I kind of hit the weight on his shoulders.
Yeah.
But he was just. I mean, but again, because he started out in National Youth Theatre.
Yeah.
So he's the real deal. I was, in some ways, I was a glorified extra in a way, and he just treated me like a full-on actor, and I really appreciated that. And I bought everyone a gift at the end of my shoot, and then I'd left him a bottle of wine or something in his trailer or something. And as my car was leaving to take me back to the hotel after my last day, suddenly I saw Bond running after the car, and the car stopped and opened the window, and he's like, "Oh, I've got you this," and he gave me this beautiful bottle of wine and a card, and it said, "No hard feelings, Daniel." And I was just like, that is such that really typifies what a class act he is as a person as well as a incredible actor.
Yeah. You don't tend to hear an awful lot about that. We have spoken to a few of the actors in his films, and they say the same thing. They say incredibly generous, really good to get to work with, really appreciates the rehearsals as well. Because we've spoken to Neil Jackson, who had a massive fight in Quantum of Solace, and he said he was so good and he just really patient with the director and everything, and just gets on with it. But this is when he was first doing this. He's doing it for the first time, like you are, isn't he? He's not in that world. I mean, he was a big actor, but he's becoming a movie star, and he just can't. It must be so difficult for him.
Yeah, and I think he's quite. I'm not sure. I wouldn't say shy, but I'd say, he's quite a private person.
Yeah,
He's not interested in the trappings.
Yeah,
again,
absolutely.
he's proper. It's great. It's a great example to show, people who, actors that you can still really be an artist as well as a star. I mean,
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
he's really managed to walk that line absolutely incredibly.
yeah. Incredible. Another funny connection now. You mentioned Prince of Persia. Did you do any scenes with Gemma Arterton? Because she, of course, was in Quantum of Solace.
I did, yes.
Yeah,
I was her guardian she was the guardian of the
yeah,
Dagger of Time, and I was the sort of her number one lieutenant guy. And she gives me the Dagger of Time to kind of escape out of the city of Alamut, and I have to kind of ride off with it, and then Jake does
yeah.
some parkour and knocks me off the horse, and then we have this kind of, again, we're supposed to be like two evenly matched fighters, but then he sort of beats me, and he's a little confused why I kind of was so obsessed by this little package I have rather than saving my life. And then he discovers it's the Sands of Time.
Yeah, it's another important role, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it was a shame that film didn't go again, because my character, they really liked the character, and in fact, we have here is a Lego set, which
Oh yeah. I was gonna mention that.
Lego Ahsoka, but he was good. They were originally, my character died, but then they decided I was gonna get stabbed in the leg, and then
Brilliant.
and then they stuck me in the final scene, and I'm there with I've got my arm in a sling, and it was likely that was going to be a bigger character in the sequel.
Yeah,
Sadly, never happened.
It did quite well, but maybe not as well as they wanted for a sequel, I think.
Yeah, they needed to make more.
Yeah, that's it though. You just don't know with these deleted scenes sometimes, and then.
Yeah.
But the Casino Royale, I mean, you can't get better than that, can you? It is voted nearly always now, Matt, isn't it? The best Bond film.
Yeah, yeah.
So you're in very good company. This is hilarious as well, but Matt and my surname is Pickup. Now we must be related to Ronald in some way. We haven't met him, but I know he's died now. But he was in that film.
Yeah, he was in Prince of Persia.
Yeah,
he was. I remember him very well. And he was a 40-a-day smoker. I remember that.
Oh right. Okay.
But I remember him at the read-through because it was directed by Mike Newell. Mike, did Four Weddings and a Funeral, and Donnie Brasco, just fantastic, fantastic human being, just like very kind of old school English, very Oxford, and just charming and smart, but kind of clear what he needed. So I got on quite well with him, and he was like, "Well, would you come and read some of the smaller characters in the read-through?" Oh. And I was like, "Oh yeah, great." And I'm quite dyslexic, so it was really difficult. I'm a really bad reader, to be honest. So I'm there, and I kind of walk in there, and the head of the tables want to pick up, and then there's Jake Gyllenhaal, Sir Ben Kingsley walks in, and then Alfred Molina. And I'm sat next to a very famous Indian actor. I'm not sure if he ended up doing the part, but it was kind of like looking back on it, it was like a very real honor to be in that room.
Yeah.
And also Toby Kebbell and Richard Coyle. I mean, there's just all these all these wonderful actors. And here's me with my one line, and then reading bits and bobs here and there. These read-throughs are always very nerve-wracking for everyone, and there's not many people like them, because you're putting this thing on its legs before you're doing the job, so you're not fully there, and everyone's kind of watching each other. It's just producers are watching you. You're kind of thinking, "Oh, are we going to be fired after that?" I mean, it's really I hate it. Yeah. And there's kind of a tradition in sort of like American acting, and it's sort of crept into England a bit as well, where people just like mumble their lines, and everyone's like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And it's like everything's like, ugh. So they start doing the thing, and like everyone's kind of like keeping it, blah, blah. And then suddenly we have the entrance of Ronald. And then suddenly he's like, "Oh, blah, blah, blah," and everyone's like, "Oh my God, we're going there." And then suddenly the whole thing came alive. And like suddenly you suddenly see the sparks flying and everyone's throwing the lines across the table. And, you know, everyone's like, "Oh, I've got to rise to the occasion." And it was really amazing. And it was definitely, he he had an incredible gravitas and
Good,
great loss.
Yeah, he did, isn't he? Yeah, you don't hear an awful lot about him. You might have to try again to mention, when Darwin was saying that, this mumbling, quiet thing. Can you remember when you were in that, what was it called, the ABC Murders?
Yes, I was. Yeah, I was an extra in an adaptation of the ABC Murders, and it had John Malkovich and Rupert Grint was in it.
Oh wow!
And they spoke particularly. Rupert Grint spoke so quietly, but he had a boom mic over him or whatever, so that could pick it up. But I was quite surprised because I don't know, I've done a very little bit of amateur dramatics and stuff like that. When it's all about, you've got to project and you've got to get your voice across. It was like you could barely hear him. And I don't know if that's, I don't know. Obviously, that was when we were actually filming rather than a read through. But yeah.
I do remember Mark Commode complaining he was watching a play with John Malkovich and he just said he couldn't hear him. He's just so quiet. He's such a big character,
Yeah.
Well, particularly in the States, and I think again, I've seen it now in England that people are mic'd now. But it never used to be the case in England. So, but there's a certain amount of undoing of the training for camera because just that extra little bit of push, you can feel it in the voice as an audience. So there's definitely a tradition here of just being much more natural and just and the great British actors do it incredibly as well, and the real greats can project and make it seem like they're just talking to you as well. I mean, it's an incredible craft.
Got to mention as well The Last Ranger, which you produced and wrote, and incredibly, it was nominated for an Oscar, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was like an incredible experience. That was last year. Seems a long time ago now because it was.
Yeah.
It took a year. We had a year on the campaign trail and finishing the film.
Yeah.
And it took us several years to make it, even though it was a short, because we did it all ourselves. It was a self-produced project. And it started, the idea came in the pandemic, and then we developed, me and my partner, Will Hawkes, developed the story with a gentleman called David Lee, who's a brilliant actor and writer. And he came, I had this idea of making 24 stories around the world set on the backdrop of the pandemic. And they would all be different communities, how they were responding to what was going on, but kind of showed how we were all connected in this way. And we did the first one in Denmark, and then The Last Ranger was about a poacher and a ranger who protects the rhinos from poaching. And we managed to shoot this thing during the pandemic on location with real rhinos. And we had the incredible fortune of being supported by John Powell, who's the composer, British composer of Wicked and all the
How to Train Your Dragon.
How to Train Your Dragon, Minions, all Paul Greengrass's movies. And I mean his CV is as long as your arm, but one of the most wonderful, kind, intelligent human beings I've come across, and certainly in the industry. I mean, he had a week off between a year and a half composing for Wicked 1 and a year and a half for 2, and he was going to go to Hawaii and have a break because he'd just been non-stop, and instead he took that week and for on his own dime helped us.
Really?
He scored the music for it with a choir which we'd found in the Kailicha township in South Africa, and all these incredible musicians around the world who donated some of their music. And then John did his magic and created the score, which really helped us get nominated. Yeah, and so we had the experience of being on, in that hall with our speech in hand. And
what on earth was that like then? I mean,
it was thrilling. I mean, the amount of work is crazy. In that week after nomination, my screen time on my phone was over 20 hours a day.
Wow, really?
Yeah, so I was spending 20 hours on my phone, and it was just like, it was a huge adrenaline rush. And just really amazing to to be to have our film appreciated, and to just have that experience was pretty wild.
And it's your film. It's not like you were a part in.
Yeah,
because some of the Oscar films, even the lead actresses don't get a seat. They don't get an invite to the Oscars because Rachel Zegler had to be, eventually persuaded. Can she come for West Side Story? Because but when it's your creation, which is absolutely
I mean that's a really special experience to have an idea and to kind of see it through. Because we spent 2 years doing the post-production editing, and me and my partner we did a lot of that development of that, and we worked with editors, then we found other editors, and it was a long process of post-production, and getting it to where it was. And we didn't really know what we were doing, of course, as most things I do in life. I sort of throw myself in there, but we kind of very slowly figured it out, and that's led to me. I've just directed my first project.
Brilliant.
Solely directed. I mean, I've done stuff before, but this is a 40-minute story set on the streets of Las Vegas in the homeless community. And
oh wow, amazing!
Wild ride of these 5 kids having to escape the clutches of a pretty awful drug dealer, based on a lot of research we did in Vegas. So I'm just in the last throes of editing that with my editor in Tyler Sherman, and hopefully we'll be able to get this out in the next couple of months. But it's,
okay, that is quite soon, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's like anything in the film industry, it takes so long, and especially when you're trying to do things independently. You're just dependent on the generosity of friends and acquaintances to help support, and donate money here and there, and everyone working on ridiculously small wages, or in our case, the producer's nothing, and director nothing, and writer's nothing. But it's it's just so fun, so thrilling to create stuff. And when you finally see a character on screen that was just a figment of someone's imagination, and the world you create, which you kind of figure out, like, oh, it could be like this, and then you see it, and then it becomes real. It's a really, really wonderful thing to do.
Well, the very human stories, obviously, you're into, and that's probably why there's that appeal, isn't it?
I think so. I mean, I've always felt that film and television, has this power to really change opinions and the way the world is. Even if it's like butterfly effect, but it doesn't have to be. You don't have to be making a Mike Leigh film about, a really serious situation, which I love his films. But
brilliant, yeah.
wrote him a letter when I first started saying, I want to be in your films.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, the great parts, aren't they, that he gives?
Yeah, just fantastic.
Oh, you're going to bath? You're going to.
I can't believe this keeps happening. I was an extra in Peterloo.
Oh, were you?
He did a film. Yeah, that's him, isn't it?
Yeah,
Mike Leigh.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing,
Manchester.
Small guy with grey hair, grey beard, like quite old. Like no, we were in these fields in sort of North Yorkshire or something. I don't know what these stories keep coming out. It's just coincidence.
Yeah, you see, you're like, oh, I don't really do this apart from
yeah,
my resume,
me and Mike go way back. But
yeah.
No, yeah, sorry.
But yeah, the fact that you're in the Bond film, so from the Oscars though, but did you go to the premiere then of Casino Royale?
I did, yeah.
Oh, amazing!
That was really fun. Yes, I was with my friend who is a casting director, Sam Jones, who and I refused to buy a clip-on bow tie. I have this thing. It's like I always think they're really rubbish when you see someone with a buckle at the end. And I was like, but this was kind of before really YouTube was, 2006. So now you just got to Google how to tie a bow tie, and it's like, So I had this bow tie, and I think I had some sort of like book. I was trying to, and I couldn't do it. And Sam was casting a play for the Royal Shakespeare Company, and Trevor Nunn was directing.
Oh wow! Yeah.
And she was like, Trevor will know how to do it. So I run out. His office was close to is in Covent Garden at the time. So I'm like bombing it in my tux. And I arrive, I knock on his, she says, I've told him you're coming. And I knock on the door and I'm like, Mr. Nunn, can you tie my bow tie? And bless him, he tied my bow tie.
This is amazing.
And then I sort of dash into Leicester Square for the premiere. But the best story was probably, I think I saw Daniel at the screening of when he did The Kite Runner, or he was.
Oh yeah.
He not did it, but he was working with the director, so he was watching it.
Yeah.
And then probably 5 or 6 years later, maybe I can't even remember, maybe 2016, maybe 10 years later, I was now in LA, and I was invited to the was it the Emmys? No, was it the Golden? No, it might be the Golden Globes.
Done them all.
It was the Golden Globes, and my friend was nominated, and I'm sat on a table, very fancy, and I'm very excited. It's great, and I go to the restroom, so I go into the restroom, and there by the urinal, and then I look right. And Daniel walks in, and he's like standing next to me, and we're both obviously taking a pee. And I'm like, do I say something? Like, because obviously he wouldn't recognize me because like my hair was shorter.
Yeah.
And it was so
in the toilet as well, though.
Yeah, toilet again.
And so we go and wash our hands, and as we're exiting, I go kind of like prod him. I'm like, hey, Daniel, you probably don't remember me, but I was Fisher. And he, from the casino, he's like, oh yeah, man, how's it going? And he just looks at the toilets and goes, we got to stop meeting in places like this.
Brilliant. That's so good. That's brilliant.
That's it. Brilliant anecdote, that.
That's full circle, isn't it?
Yeah.
From both in Prague, then to Pinewood, and then in LA.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Oh, well, thank you so much, Darwin.
Thank you.
You've been very generous with your time. And these are stories people don't know. Bond fans are really interested in the behind-the-scenes stuff and the filming of what pivotal scenes they were, at the start of Daniel Craig's reign. And I think 20 years on now, it's still regarded as one of the best. And particularly because...
It holds up, right?
It does, it does.
And you're like, this could be if this was made today.
Oh, absolutely,
yeah.
And the action, the action particularly is outstanding because it's done for real. It's not. It was pre-CGI, wasn't it?
I remember sitting with the stunt team talking about it when they were designing it with the director, and they were like, look, I think Bourne had just come out, and they were like,
Yes, yeah,
no, like we wanted, this has kind of changed things, and this is the new bar. And then they I think From Russia with Love was another
yeah,
reference they had, because that was kind of still had that level of brutality, and it wasn't about. It was going a bit away from spectacle and being more to a gritty, a more martial kind of way of doing things. It was more like get the job done rather than, you know, doing flips or whatever.
yeah,
It
yeah,
was just like, how would you do it? How would you, he was this brutal, blunt, they describe him as a blunt tool.
yeah,
And I think, that was such a great, again, in the writing, such a
yes,
great description, because it just tells you everything about how they'd conceived this new direction. And, Daniel just had this, wonderful charisma in a way, which is like not obvious. It's just a bit, it's like tough, but still, eloquent and very intelligent. I think he's like an intelligent Bond.
very English as well. It's not. It's so far from an American action hero. It's a real
Yeah.
English vulnerable person. I do still think it's his best performance as Bond as well. The fact that now we've finished his reign, we can look back, can't we, and on the 15 years I think it was as a whole, and yeah, it all started here in Prague. Yeah. But absolutely amazing. Thank you so much, Darwin.
Yeah,
My
thank you
pleasure.
so much.
And yeah,
It's lovely to meet you guys.
yeah,
Yeah, and
fantastic.
you. Cheers, Darwin.
Take care.
Thanks so much.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Shame. We barely got to know each other. I know where you keep your gun. Suppose that's something.